Sitting in front of me is a dear friend, past client who, gosh, Carrie, we got to work together back in 2022, September of 2022. Welcome to the
Yeah,
podcast.
that's wild. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for saying yes to sharing your story. Your story really touches me. And with all that you've gone through, overcoming breast cancer, you had a long fertility journey, which I'll let
Yeah.
you open up and share, and just seeing where you're at now and reading kind of like I was sharing with you before the call, the intake form that you filled out when we first connected again back in 2022 was like wanting to believe this was going to happen for you
hmm
and share where you're at right now with
Sure.
your beautiful little one.
Yeah. My daughter, her name's Ella. Ella is 19 months old, and she truly is a blessing. I mean, I know you talk a lot about how it was that one embryo, and we can get into it, but like that was our situation too. I mean, at the end of all of it, we had the opportunity with one more embryo. And it's funny to hear you say, I needed to believe, because when I look back on the journey, I think like that's one of the most important things that I could have done was just believed and known. And in my heart, I felt like I almost did for most of the time know that it was going to happen for us, for my husband and I. And so, yeah, that's Ella. And it's the best gift in the world to be a mom and to get to see my husband be a dad. And
Oh,
it takes a lot to get there. It really does. But I hope that it can be hopeful and I can provide hope for someone else who feels
yeah.
like they have to go through everything to get there.
Yeah. I mean, what you've overcome and the strength and adversity, I know that's one thing that really resonated with me when you reached out for some support and just kind of looking for a new approach, a new path forward is something you shared with me. Like you had this dream, like many do
hmm
who are navigating through this. Like you want to experience being a mom, seeing your husband like be a dad and sharing those joys together. Um, can you take us back to a little bit of your story? Because never is it really straightforward. There's
It's not.
a lot of
Yeah.
setbacks. And like, you've overcome so much. And I'm here to just share what you've gone through because you are such an example of like this resilient strength in you, like that I think did help you through IVF and like, I'm sure being a mom now, like all that you've navigated through. Like take us back again to kind of like where it began.
Sure. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. It's one of those things where it's very like thoughtful and kind of you to say, but like when you're in it, you just don't know where to find it, right? And
Yeah.
then like looking back, like I am proud of what we've been through and what you had to do. I mean, I say that about my cancer treatment all the time. Like I would never want to do it again. But
Mm.
like I try to walk away and remind myself of like how much I had to do to get through it. And I'm proud of that. So thank you. But yeah, I'll start kind of where we began our journey, and please feel free to cut me off or direct me, what you
Oh,
want me to share. But my husband's name is Joe. So I'll just refer to him as Joe. But Joe and I, we got married kind of a little bit later. So I was 32 when we got married. And so we waited a few months. We lived in Washington, D.C., and we were moving back to his hometown, a smaller town in Pennsylvania. So we kind of held off on trying, but we knew we needed to try because we
yeah.
did have this goal of wanting to have a family.
Yeah.
And so we waited about 6 months and we had moved. And I felt like no matter what happened, we were in the place we were going to be. And then we started to try, and we gave it a year, like what your normal OBGYN
Yeah.
would tell you in what any town that you're in, says keep trying, give it that year. And we did. And I didn't feel worried about it, but it just wasn't happening for us. I didn't feel any stress or anxiety at that point. We just kind of were seeing what it was about. And
Mm.
so after that year, I started to talk to my local OBGYN and just talk about, what do we need to check levels? Like, what else
Mhm.
could I be doing? This is what we want. This is the goal. I'm now 33, right? So I don't want to like sit on it if I need to figure something out. And then she recommended, right away that we see a specialist. In our small town, it's, there isn't a women's hospital nearby. So I started to travel to the closest city, which is Pittsburgh, just
Mhm.
about like an hour and 10 minutes from our house. And so I started to seek some help from a fertility specialist. And I mean, anyone going through it knows, right? Like you think, oh, I'm going to go see the doctor. And then a month later we'll be doing things, right? But
Okay.
it's months, right? And it's hard. That timeline is really hard when you're really wanting to, start having a family, because you have to go through the testing and the scans and the screening. And sometimes it can get pretty heavy. But knowing that, like, realistically that's ahead of you, but it's just going to give you information and things you need to know, I think is good to remember in the back of your mind. But we did that. So for like 6 months, I mean, we worked with a fertility specialist. We were traveling for appointments and trying to figure out what to do. And really what came back was like maybe some issues with some male factor infertility issues, but finding out that, like, I had a good, egg supply. I was ready to go. My body was ready for it. I was healthy. So we kind of jumped into doing IUIs because, when you don't have a female issue, that was kind of the first step for us. And all my doctors were saying, it can happen. You're
Yeah.
good. We're just going to help you. So we, from like January, so that was January 2019, right? So we had now been trying for a year, met with fertility doctors for 6 months. And so to make a plan. And then finally in January, we got to start with some IUIs. And we basically did for 6 months straight an IUI every month.
Yeah.
Like once we were
6.
allowed to get started. Yeah. Well,
6 in a
5
year.
total. Like it took us like that
Wow.
first month to like jump into it. But yeah, like we did one every month. Like we didn't plan vacations. We didn't really
Wow.
travel. We kind of like, because I felt like that could do it, right? All the doctors were saying that could be the answer for us. And I never even got like a chemical pregnancy test. I never got anything positive. It was just didn't work every single month. So after those 5 IUIs in a row, in July basically of 2019, we had to say like, okay, what's the next step now? Like, let's get serious, right? Because again, I'm getting, I'm feeling the pressure now a little bit more. I do think when I was thinking about this call and sharing like women in this journey,
Yeah.
like you said, it's such an up and down journey. At the time, I wasn't, it was very sad to see every month like a negative pregnancy test again in order to get your period, right? Like that's what kind of happens in those moments for IUIs. And, but like, I don't know, I still didn't feel like the weight of it yet, I think,
Okay.
along that comes, I was feeling more pressure because of my age maybe, but I wasn't feeling like, doom and gloom or anything like that. I really felt like we were close.
Yeah.
But we did have to change paths, right? Like that one wasn't working for us. So
Mhm.
it was at that point that we jumped into like, all right, what does IVF look like for us? And what do we need to do?
Mhm.
So that was July, and it actually happened pretty quickly. And I mean, we for our first egg retrieval in the end of August. Like starting at the end of August and into September
Okay.
is when I had my first egg retrieval. So we kind of jumped into that, and I had a new doctor. You know how it is, right? At the practices, right? Doctors are sometimes in and out, and so I felt
Yeah.
like that was a fresh start that we needed. And so in September, we had our first egg retrieval, and it was pretty successful. I mean, according to them, we got 8 eggs, and then we had 6 fertilized, and then we got 9 eggs,
Mm.
8 fertilized. And then I got that 5-day call that you
Uh-huh.
wait for, right, while they're
Yeah.
growing in the lab. And it was a Saturday. I actually remember exactly where I was. I was in the TJ Maxx parking lot, and like you get a call on a Saturday from a weird number and you're like, oh my God, this is it, right? I was trying to like occupy my brain.
Uh-huh.
And it was the embryologist who was at the lab
Oh.
that day. And they said, I want to let you know that, like, I'll never forget. She called me the
Oh.
big winner of the day. She's
Oh.
like, you're the big winner,
Oh.
And she said that we had 6 5-day embryos.
Wow.
And that was great. I felt really happy. And we knew going in that I was going to do genetic testing. So one thing when I was thinking about it, though, that was hard for me was, I do going into that, I knew that I had the BRCA gene. I had tested positive for the BRCA gene when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And so I knew that breast cancer was certainly a part of my family. My mom had had breast cancer. Both of her sisters had breast cancer. We actually found out my grandfather was the carrier of the gene. He passed away from pancreatic cancer, which is pretty typical with a BRCA carrier. But my grandmother also had breast cancer. So
Oh.
it was like just the way it kind of unraveled for our
Mhm.
family. But I did know that obviously breast cancer was something, and we had the gene. So deciding the genetic testing, do you just do regular PGT testing, or do we want to do like, genetic testing for my specific mutation.
Mm.
That was probably like the really first hard decision,
Mm.
because you're making a decision for an embryo, right? And I struggled personally just knowing that if like my mom had done something like that, like I wouldn't have been here. It was the first kind of, I
Mm.
remember like a real conflict of like trying to
Mm.
sort out in my brain. I remember sitting in the car crying at one point, like just having had a conversation with Joe and just not knowing what to do, if I wanted to do the further genetic testing or not.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, I think the genetic testing, tell me if it was good or bad, but I didn't want to test if my embryos had the BRCA gene. I just
Okay.
wanted to I had to give something up to the universe.
Yeah.
Right. Through IVF, there's not a lot that we can control or that we can manage. And
Mhm.
I felt like it was almost trying to control too much,
Mm.
for me personally. And it's a really personal decision.
Yeah.
Um, at that point hadn't had breast cancer also.
Okay.
Maybe I would make a different decision in my life now, having gone through treatment. If I were like back in that spot in the car, contemplating, like, I knew I need to make a decision by the end of the day if we're going to, pursue that kind of genetic testing or not. But I might make a different decision. I don't know that I'll ever know that answer exactly.
Mm.
But I decided not to. So we went ahead and we had our embryos tested, and they came back and we had three. We had three healthy embryos that we were able to
Amazing.
move forward
Mhm.
with at that point. So that happened, probably in October, beginning of October, we found out where that was. So we were ready to go, and we jumped right into, starting meds for your first transfer, which was scheduled for the end of November.
And
So
this is in what year again? We're in
we are in 2019 still.
2019 still.
2019
Wow,
was,
a lot. That
yeah,
was an
a
eventful year for you.
busy fertility year. Yeah, you know
Huh.
how to, I really believed if we hit the ground running, it was going to happen, right? So we
Yeah.
kind of put a lot of family trips and other things on hold, and I was just in the zone.
Mhm. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're
Were you
focused on that,
working
it's like,
as a
whew.
teacher? Were you working in the school at this time
I
too?
was, yeah. I'm a teacher, so, and we had just moved, so I was in
Yeah.
the beginning of kind of a new-ish job. This was my second school year there,
Yeah.
so yeah, I was working. Luckily, when you have coworker and you have boss support and
Yeah.
support in the workplace, that's
Oh
really
yeah.
important, because
Makes
it
all the
felt like,
difference.
right, the morning appointments, the driving back and forth, especially for us,
Mhm.
because I had to go, an hour each way.
Oh my gosh.
Um, so I was scheduling those 6 a.m. appointments so that I could, get back here as a teacher. You don't have a ton of flexibility,
Yeah.
but you hit the ground running and just got to get there and get back. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so we were doing all of that, and but it was great, right? Like
Mhm.
I still was really optimistic that this was going to be it, right,
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of November. And it's funny that the retrieval meds felt so much easier, right?
Mm.
Than excuse me, the transfer meds, like doing a transfer cycle
Yeah.
seems easier after going through an egg retrieval with everything
Right.
timed so
Right.
perfectly and all the injections and medications. So that kind of felt like a breeze, right? You were just
Yeah.
taking some oral medications and jumping into a transfer and looking forward to that. And it was actually 5 days before that embryo transfer, our very first one. It was Thursday. I actually know the date perfectly without having to think about it, because it was my husband's birthday.
Oh.
Um, it was 5 days before our first transfer, and it was November 21st, and we were going first thing in the morning, and he was going to come with me for that trip. And so I was taking a shower. It's probably 4:30 in the morning, right? Because I'm getting ready for work so we can run downtown and then get back and I can go straight to work. And that was your last blood work and ultrasound, kind of before the transfer, to check
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And I was in the shower, and I literally was washing my body like I do every time when you take a shower. And I felt a lump on my left side in my breast. And I'm not lying to you, my knees felt wiggly.
Mm.
I've never experienced a feeling like that. I mean, I guess maybe you could, someone could relate if you get terrible news and all of a sudden you feel that pit in your stomach, something drops, something's wrong. And my knees felt jiggly and wiggly. And all of a sudden I just I knew something was
Mm.
wrong. I knew it was something. But the first thought in my head was, I'm not going to tell anyone.
Oh.
That was honestly the first thought, because I didn't want to ruin this, right? We had worked so hard to get to this first transfer. I was like so excited. You're taking all these meds, you're ready to go. I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell anyone, and just like go forward, because all I want is a baby. I just want to, and I walked out of the bathroom though, and like I had tears in my eyes, and I woke Joe, and I was like something's wrong. Something was there. I just felt something. I think we need to like call the doctor and see. So
Okay.
early, no one's answering their phone. So I went in for my appointment, and they called in like their PA in the fertility office just to check me out, and I was at that time, right? I'm 34 years old, right? So
Mm.
everyone's kind of saying to me, you know, it's nothing, right? You're 34. It's just you have cystic breasts, like you've had mammograms and ultrasounds now, because a part of having your genetic mutation, right? Like I'd been getting
Mm.
MRIs and ultrasounds toggled back and forth every 6 months.
Okay.
And so this is November, and I had a mammogram in July as a part of like the prep for this, right? Like all the doctors want to check your boxes
Yeah.
to make sure that your body is ready for a pregnancy. And so the PA who felt it was like, I think it's just a cyst. Like but we need to make sure it's not before a transfer, of course, because of my
Yeah.
family history. Everyone just kept saying like, well, because of your family history, we're going to, make sure that it's okay. And actually the women's hospital couldn't get me in for screening that day. Like now the pressure's on, right? Because we are now
Right.
Thursday and we're looking at a transfer on a Tuesday.
Oh gosh.
So I was like, well, can I go right now? Like I'm here, right? Like send me to mammogram. Let's go. Because really I felt it and I was concerned, but I still didn't think it was going to be anything.
Okay.
I don't know why. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I
Yeah.
was really convinced it was going to be okay. And so my local women's hospital got me in, which was a blessing. We do a lot of kind of fundraising for our local women's hospital here. Like I am
Mm.
so grateful to them to this day. Like the bigger hospital couldn't figure it out, but like you called someone, we got someone on the phone. They got me in for a mammogram that afternoon. I came home,
Wow.
and then they saw kind of this, and they're like, well, it looks like cysts, but because of your family history, let's do the ultrasound. Let's check it out. They did the ultrasound, and then it was like, well, because of your family history, they saw kind of two cysts that they were questioning, and like, oh yeah, those are kind of strange. We don't see them on your mammogram.
Mhm.
But because of your family history again, let's do the biopsies. So they literally scheduled me the next morning
Wow.
for biopsies on two cysts what they were calling cysts. And just their support was also in that moment something that I really needed, because if I hadn't had them, I would have just had to cancel the cycle at that point. But in my brain I was like, nope, we're still taking my fertility doctor was like, you take the meds, you do everything we need to do, we're going to keep going, but we need to get this all clear. So whatever we need to do, you need to hear like it's nothing, and then we'll transfer on Tuesday still. So biopsies, all of that on Friday. And even the lab here like was pushing my samples through over the weekend so that we could get the results hopefully on Monday and be good to go for Tuesday. And yeah, it was a worst case scenario, right? So on Monday I got the call. Well, literally all weekend I thought like, no big deal. I'm just waiting for the call to tell me we're good and we're fine. I
Mhm.
had my mother-in-law actually asked me, she's like, are you nervous? And I wasn't. I
Mhm.
just thought, this is the path I'm on. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now, is to like we're supposed to have this transfer.
Mm.
And yeah, on Monday I got the call at work that I should come into the doctor's office and bring my husband. And I was like, oh God, that
Mm.
was it. Right. Like I literally just walked out of my office. Like I didn't have children at the time. So those people are worried that I'm a teacher. I'm a specialist. So I didn't have a group with me at the time. And
Yeah.
I just remember calling the office and being like, I have to go. I'm going to go. And my appointment wasn't for 2.5 hours, but I just came home and
Mm.
sat on the couch for those 2.5 hours. And like, it's not good, right? Like bring your husband.
Yeah.
If there was good news, like they tell you that on the phone, we're all clear. And they knew what like was at stake for me with these results. So
Mm.
yeah, so we went into the office, and yeah, that was the beginning of a whole new journey, right? Because I found out that I had almost 5 centimeters of tumor at that time. I had two different tumors.
Mm.
I had a 3 centimeter, 3.6, and like a
Mhm.
2.5 centimeter tumor. Both were cancerous. So that was the words that I heard that day, was that I had been diagnosed, with stage 3 ductal carcinoma, and it was there. And I was exactly the age my mom was too, right? Like
Mhm.
it was a shock still knowing that I had the BRCA gene. You know, I don't know. I don't know if my brain was so focused on having a baby.
Yeah.
I was really floored and shocked that this was happening. I really thought I was going to be able to like have this child and get that in and then take care of like cancer with maybe, choosing to have surgery down the line and prevent breast cancer. But so
Mhm.
everything fertility wise in that moment was paused,
Yeah.
right?
Your
I had
priorities
to walk
shift
out
real
of the
quick.
office. Yeah, I was in the hallway outside the office of that doctor's office in tears calling because I was like, don't defrost the embryo.
Yeah.
Don't like pause, because
Yeah.
what I had been preparing for in the next day now became what was going to be my hope for having a family years down the line, truly
Now,
years.
is this when you did the 2 years of cancer treatments and surgeries at
Yeah.
this point?
Yeah. 3 years.
3 years. Okay. Those back-to-back fertility treatment um, with your embryos that you had made before being diagnosed with cancer. So, gosh,
Mhm.
like take us. So, gosh, you're focusing on, you were doing chemo.
Yeah, so that was November, right? We're now, if the 21st was Thursday, right? So we're on November, 24th. And yeah, I was no longer I was going to the women's hospital, but no longer the fifth floor
Mm.
for fertility services. Now I was on the third floor for the Women's Cancer Center.
Gosh.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, I am very, very lucky that we do have a really good team and a really good health system here in the nearby city. And so,
Mhm.
um, all of a sudden, right, like my best friend's aunt had just started with her cancer treatment, and I had called over to a doctor that she had recommended and I couldn't get in, and so my fertility doctor sent a message to the women with the young women with breast cancer center and said,
Mhm.
like, listen, I have this girl who just found this out, and I'm telling you, I had made an appointment like that day, right? You leave an appointment where they tell you have cancer, you go home and you sit at your table and you're like, oh my God, who do I call, right? What do I
Yeah.
do? And I had scheduled an appointment with a doctor that had been recommended to me by a family friend, but I couldn't get in for like 2.5, 3 weeks.
Oh.
And so I was just going to sit with that. That is what it was. Those were the doctors I wanted to see. And so I, you know, I sent my fertility doctor a message and said, this is the situation, just so you
Yeah.
know. And she sent a message to her peer in the Women's Cancer Center. And that night, I had a breast surgeon on the phone to me. The one that I wanted to work with called me directly and
Wow.
said, bring me everything. She was
Mm.
like, bring me your slides, bring me your films, bring me your everything. Go get your MRI. Literally the following week, she's like, go in, get your breast MRI on Tuesday, and I'm going to see you on Wednesday. And that's
Mm.
what we did. Like, it was the first time that, like, I felt like that woman came to
Mm.
my rescue. I will never forget Dr. Diego for that.
Oh.
She was on the phone and she's like, we're going to do this. She's like, you're going to get in here and I'm going to look at everything you have. You're going to bring it all to me and you're now mine. Like, and you're going to
Wow.
beat this together. And so she was my surgeon. So
Wow.
the first step was meeting with a surgeon to make a plan to decide like when you do chemo before or after surgery, depending on your type of disease and like the aggressiveness and what
Mhm.
kind of chemos you have to
Mhm.
do. So
Mhm.
we made a plan for surgery, but I did start with chemo. So actually, I would have like then I met with the the oncologist that I wanted, and they all work together in the hospital. So like having a center like that is just,
Is
I mean, it's
all there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are in this newer town, and like here, I landed at this place that was taking care of my fertility
Mm.
needs, and then it really blended right into being the support and the care that I needed for now breast cancer.
Oh my gosh.
But it was like my first chemo was actually like a few days after when that appointment would have been. Like we were already going. So I started chemo on December 27th. So literally like just a little bit more than a month after I was diagnosed was my first chemo. And I did 16 rounds of chemo.
16. 16.
Yeah, we did 4 of what's called the Red Devil. It's adriamycin and Cytoxin, and it's that's like every 2 weeks because it's really crazy. I mean, the nurse comes in to give it to you, and she's literally wearing like a hazmat suit, and
Ah.
that's what they're putting in your IV.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we did 4 rounds of that, and then I did 12 rounds of what's called TC, which is like Taxol and carboplatin, which kind of had to do with like if you're a BRCA carrier, right? Like the type of cancer. Mine was triple negative disease, so we had to do certain types of regimen. I mean, my tumors were 100% like at their aggressive level. So we knew we had to do it like right away. So even having had made the embryos prior to this, was this like, I mean, if you can be serendipitous in that moment, like the women in my situation usually have to even pause breast cancer treatment
Yeah.
so that you can, now you're worried about your fertility because I still
Fertility
wanted a family,
preservation. Yeah.
right? We knew we were doing the most aggressive chemos, right? The heaviest rounds that you would have to do to beat a disease. So like they were telling you, from the beginning, this is it zaps everything in your body, right? It zaps the bad stuff, but it zaps the good stuff too. So I was really lucky to have those embryos, truly.
Yeah. What a blessing. So 3 embryos at that point, correct?
Yeah. Three
Okay.
positive,
So 3
genetically
healthy
tested.
embryos. And
Yeah.
when you came to me, you shared with me that you had just finished your second embryo transfer, and
hmm
both of those had been unsuccessful. So you
Yeah.
have this one embryo, right? Uh,
Yeah. So when we started, it was, I finished all the chemotherapy,
yep.
radiation. I
Yep.
had, a bilateral mastectomy, and then I
Yep.
had 3 reconstruction surgeries. And
Wow.
so once I was done with my reconstruction surgeries, I was ready to go right
Yeah.
back to it. Actually, I almost wish I had paused a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
I was so ready. I mean, it was years now later, right? So if I was
Mhm.
diagnosed in November of 2019, my last surgery, like what was it when I started to work with you again, right? It was
2022. So yeah.
yeah. So and you have to, like, I started even trying to have a baby a year and a half before even anything, and
Wow.
so I was ready to kind of jump right into it. And so I jumped as soon as I finished my last reconstruction surgery, which I was
Okay.
waiting for the doctor to tell me, like, all clear, right? All
Yeah.
good. Also, the type of breast cancer I had allowed me to be able to take hormones again, right? Because I had triple
Okay.
negative disease. So it was like a non hormone receptor cancer.
Oh,
So it was like I was allowed to take meds for transfers, right? That's a whole nother piece of the puzzle too for women post
yeah.
cancer. It
Being able
depends
to
on the
take.
type of cancer
Mhm.
because sometimes your body, you can't go back to hormones and things like that after a breast cancer
Were you
treatment.
seeing a lot of other specialists at this time? I know when you came to me, you had like an acupuncturist on your team, a
hmm
naturopathic doctor, a chiropractor, I think doing lymph massage.
Yep.
Um, so those were all things that you had been kind of doing in
Yeah.
preparing for the next transfer.
Yeah, almost like in fixing my body,
Yeah.
from previous things to
Healing,
try to make it
healing.
ready. Yeah, I was trying to like
Yeah.
do, to have I had a really good team of people like who not just at like the hospital, with
Mhm.
certain type of medicine, but I really was seeking out also things holistically that would, support my brain and,
Right.
my heart and other things outside of now what like your physical body can do.
How did you even find me, Carrie? I'm like trying to remember. Like, how did we even get connected?
I know. I I had seen your book, right? Because your book came out kind of around that time. I mean,
Okay, 2020. Yeah.
yeah, right. Because 'cause we're also talking COVID. We haven't even
Yeah.
mentioned that
Oh,
word,
yeah, that
right?
I'll
So
throw
here
that in
I
the
was,
mix.
like, jumping I'm in the middle
Yeah.
of chemotherapy, and then COVID hits, and now my husband
Oh.
can't even come in with me to chemotherapy. He literally dropped me off at the front gates of a hospital
Oh
and
my
went and sat in a
oh, yeah,
parking
Joe
lot
couldn't
for
be
8 hours.
he couldn't be a part of any of that.
He came to, like, the first 4, 6 maybe. I got through maybe 6 of 16 rounds, and he was able to be
Wow.
there with me.
Oh
And then he
my
wasn't
gosh.
allowed to come in, but also we were traveling an hour, right? So he didn't wanna go, like, he wanted to be there for me, so he would sit in a park, like a public park, and
Oh,
work on his laptop for work and try to get some things done, but, like,
oh,
it's
wow.
insane. But, so I think I mean, I definitely found you through social media. It was on,
Yeah. Yeah.
Instagram, and hearing about your book and just knowing that, like, I really do believe it takes a village and a team,
Yeah.
right? It can be really isolating, uh,
Mm.
to go through this journey. And I didn't know that, anyone had exactly my experience, but I think at this point I was just looking for, the support and understanding that can get there still.
Yeah.
Right. And I had met with you after I had had two failed. Right. So we had these three beautiful embryos. I was like, they were my hope. They really
Mhm.
were. They were going to be it. And, I guess I quickly jumped into transfers, which maybe I should have taken my time a little bit again, really tuning into my body and like looking inward to make sure that I was 100% ready to take off on going back into the fertility journey.
Yeah.
Because, it takes like all of your cells in your body have to be aligned and just
Right.
ready. And, I think I could have slowed myself down a little bit and just,
Mhm.
allowed myself a little more space. So I think that's what I was doing when I found you. And I
Okay.
knew I just needed to pause and
Mhm.
like take a moment to refocus,
Yeah.
what my goals were and know that I could get there. Cause I did. I mean, I really hope that anyone struggling along this journey, like if you can keep the hope that it will happen for you.
Mhm.
Right. I pray for someone going through fertility treatments that it's with fertility treatments, but I also had to get to the point in my journey and know that I was okay with potentially donor embryos, right? Like maybe it was going to be with a donor egg, and maybe we could use
Mhm.
my husband's sperm. It could still be part of us. I could carry this baby. Like I was starting to go down that path that I had to be open to other ideas.
Yeah. I really
But
appreciate
that
that
helped
about
me
you.
hold on to it, that I could get
Totally.
there.
You did come with such an openness, and reflecting back on my notes, I know at that point you had kind of just kept it more private with your husband and a couple friends, if I remember correctly, and that you wanted to widen your support network.
Yeah.
And so that's important, I think, too, for individuals to kind of consider like you can keep it very private. And I think that, it's whatever's personal for you. And you were just at least open to like, I want to invite some others in to help
Mhm.
support me with mindset, with new tools, new ways of going about this path.
Yeah, because I mean, I knew I had one embryo left, right? And I didn't know what my body could do
Mhm.
after that, right? So I really had to kind of change my mindset in terms of like what else should I be addressing maybe? Like why didn't the first two embryos, like beautifully genetically tested embryos, why didn't they work? If my body was ready for this. So meeting with you and truly meeting with you then jumped, I was able to springboard off and with like Natalia with
Uh-huh. Yeah.
hypnosis. That was amazing for me. I would never have made that connection.
Mhm.
And, bringing her in and like working on that with her was something that I didn't even know I needed. Right. And
Yeah.
the idea of that like mindfulness and
Yeah.
really relaxing into it, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
naturally an anxious person who, can sometimes get in her own head. And then, our work and focusing on my goals and, that positive mindset, but then working with her on how to really kind of just relax into the moment.
Mhm.
I didn't even think about the possibility of wearing like my ear pods during a transfer to like be in the right headspace to just allow your whole body to be relaxed in the moment and like be excited for it and
Yeah.
like enjoy the beautiful thing that's actually happening even though there's four doctors around you and it's terrible
Right.
lighting and you don't want, there's maybe a student down here looking at everything going
Yeah.
on. But yeah,
So
so I met
true.
her through our work, and like that
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
something that I never would have stumbled upon.
I'm so glad that she helped you too. Gosh, yeah, I know we talked about being able to trust the path. Like that was a
Mhm.
big thing, having trust. And
Yeah.
so many, I'm sure, who are listening, trust is a big part of this. And you had
Mhm.
one embryo left. One of the things you and I did was a chakra reading.
Mhm.
And as I was looking back on our notes, like some of the areas like the heart, the solar plexus, and your third eye. So we talked about like trusting your body, like it's bigger. That was your biggest fear. And so it was like getting to a place where you could fully kind of lean into what you could focus on. You knew your body was strong. These are things we talked about. You were healthy. You knew that you said, my body is able to carry a healthy baby. It's like really shifting into trusting and visualizing like this was all happening for you. And I just
Mhm.
think you had some new mantras that you were able to tune into, not focusing on, you said, I don't want to be bitter or resentful or even scared to be hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like
Yeah.
shifting the energy. And that's so key as you're going through this. Being able to see with your third eye, say that's the third eye, seeing this working out for you, seeing yourself
Mm-hmm.
pregnant with a healthy baby, right?
Yeah. And that's, I think you like our work, like this was a really safe space for me to talk about that, right? Like, no,
Yeah.
my Joe is the most supportive, loving, wonderful man in the world, right? Like we had just gone through cancer treatments together. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, he sat in the car for 8 hours while I was upstairs getting chemo, right? No one would, no, there weren't public restrooms open. He was literally like banging on doors to please let him in to use a bathroom in the hospital, because it was COVID. It was the beginning of COVID.
Oh
No
my
one,
God.
and but it still gets hard with your partner, right? Like it feels
Yeah.
hard because at this point it was heavy, right? Each time those first two embryos didn't work, it was heavy. And then when my third embryo didn't work, and I was like, what where do you go, right? Where do I do? And it was literally trusting my body. And I knew I should do one more retrieval. Like even post chemo, how they told me, I knew what the numbers were pre chemo and then after. Like I know your ovarian reserve, right? It's very easy to get that blood test. You can
Mhm.
know, now that I really didn't have much left to use to make more of our own embryos. But I thought, I'm just going to try one more egg retrieval because that's what my body told me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that that's such an important part of a woman going through this journey of saying, like, you have to trust your gut. We have to trust our gut on all things, right? I try to take that
Mhm.
lesson with me in life now. But
Mhm.
your gut is so real. And I knew that I should just try one more because whether it sent me down the path of saying, okay, it did not work for me and my body and making these embryos, then I'm supposed to try someone else's, or I'm going to go down the adoption route. I'm
Mhm.
going to do it that way. That's what I'm meant to do.
Mhm.
Or it worked, right? And
Yeah.
we did that one more egg retrieval. It was a new doctor again. And,
Yeah. I was
we
going to
tried
mention, but
yeah, it was a brand new doctor, like newer. She had a lot of experience, but new to the practice. And I loved her energy. And
mhm.
she told me straight up, Carrie, like, you're getting into a hard road with your numbers and what you're bringing to the table. But we are very lucky in that our health insurance supports some of our fertility treatments. And I said, and that can make or break a decision too, no matter what your gut says, right? The reality of IVF is sometimes financials just have to drive the cart down the road because that is what you're tied to. But we are so lucky that my husband's employer, he still works for his firm in DC, and they supported our fertility journey. And so I said, let's do one more. Let's do one more egg retrieval. I want to give it a shot. I mean, even like the day before the retrieval, my doctor was on the phone with me in the parking lot at my school saying, like, maybe we shouldn't do it. Like she's
Really?
like, she said, it's your choice. She said, we can do it. You have some follicles, we have some things going on, but it's definitely not the levels of what she was, used to seeing
Yeah.
with women
Because
my
post
age.
chemotherapy, you had diminished ovarian reserve, right?
Correct. Yeah. And what was growing the follicles and like the hopefulness of how many eggs we would get. So, but
Mhm.
I said, let's do it, right? We're this far.
Yeah.
Let's do one. Let's just do it
Yeah.
tomorrow. And then like, let's just see what
Yeah.
happens. And we did. And I mean, that final egg retrieval, we got 4 eggs and then 3 fertilized. And so the next day, it was a different protocol, right? Just fresh
Mhm.
start for this one. We did a fresh transfer. So 5 days later, right, you get the call. Literally, well, it's different with a fresh transfer, right? Because you show up for your appointment, you show up for your transfer, and you don't know if you're necessarily try to call you in the morning, the embryologist, to say like yay or nay, like after those 5 days, if any have grown, but you're just like ready, right? You're doing the
Ready.
meds, you're heading in, and we had one. We had one embryo that
Oh
grew. I know.
my God, I'm gonna
And
cry.
there was a chance of a second one. There was one kind of hanging on still. And she said, like, if it continues, maybe they would freeze that one for me. But like on the 5 days after that last retrieval, there was one that they liked and they said, let's do it. And so yeah, that was in May of 2023. And we did it and we transferred it.
That's
And
Ella.
it's Ella. Yeah, I know. It brings a tear to my eye because
Yeah.
I truly like having your help, having Natalia's help, having,
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
knowing obviously your family is key in your doctors and the support as well. But like I don't know why I pushed through that far, except for just trusting what my gut was telling me and what my brain told me we could do,
Yeah.
and what I knew I could dig deep enough to find to push through.
Mm. Your story
But
is remarkable. Like, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I just think something that really stood out to me, and I think you've always carried this quality of gratitude with you. You shared with me, you were able to always kind of focus on the good
mhm.
despite everything that you were going through, and also keeping the joy alive, still living life, still doing, I think it was Pilates or the Peloton or whatever activities you
Yeah.
were doing to keep
Yeah.
yourself in a joyful place. Like those are
Yeah.
so key because gosh, look what you've endured. It-
You do have to keep living life, right? For
yeah.
you, for your own being, for your partner's well-being, for your relationship, right? Like, even now when you have a child, Joe and I always joke, like, we're the team, right? It's not like it's us against our child, but we try to remind ourselves we're the team.
Yeah.
We're leading her. Even through the journey, it can get so blurry and so hard where like this becomes the only thing, but like you have to look outside of it. I mean, even after this transfer, my husband loves the band Fish, and all of our friends were going to the Grateful Dead concert was in
Uh-huh.
town. And I was normally like, no, I'm not staying up late. I'm not going to be in that setting, right? You're in your like
Yeah.
2 week wait.
Uh-huh.
And a part of me was like, we're just going to go, right? I'm just going to go. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
And at that point, I just, I'd already had 3 failed transfers. So I was trying to monitor my hope, right? I just didn't
Mm.
know anymore, and like where it was going to come. And sure enough, right?
Oh
Like
my gosh.
kind of, in that 2 week wait, you watch your body, right? For every little sign. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I had a situation where I kind of had it like like I'd bled a little bit. So part of me said like, okay, I see what my body's telling me. And it is what it is. So I went to the concert. I was like, we're okay. And the night before my beta test, I had never done this. I took a pregnancy test because I just wanted to like have that moment with my husband because
Mm.
I'd had that little bleed and I thought it's okay. This is what it is, right?
Was it a
Like
subchorionic hemorrhage?
it
I
was,
had one
yeah,
too. I had one too.
yeah. And but I thought that was it, right? After 3
Oh,
failed transfers, I had
right.
seen this feel I'd done that before and had experienced that, and
Yeah.
so I really didn't think so I thought, "I'm gonna take a pregnancy test with Joe this night, like, before the beta so that we can go to work tomorrow, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not, like, upset, and I'm not gonna watch the app for my blood test," and
Yeah.
so we had a moment where he was even in the bedroom, he wasn't even by me, and I literally took a pregnancy test, and I just go, "Oh my god," right? Like I have a picture like with tears in my eyes where I'm holding this stick. Like I cannot believe Joe's in it too. And he's like, we're just shocked because
Wow.
that's what can happen, right? Like
Yeah. Oh,
that's what does make all of it beautiful in a way is that you can have that moment of like everything you've ever wanted in that moment in my bathroom when I was just thinking I was going to release myself to go to work the next day and not stress about the blood results.
yeah. That's
But
so
it
amazing.
did, it worked out and it was her.
Oh my gosh.
You had shared
Oh,
one of your resources was it was about our spirit babies,
oh, uh-huh.
and we had shared that along the path, and that was something when I thought about this too that really stood out to me was that belief when you're thinking like I'm going to be a mom somehow, right? I
Mm-hmm.
really did feel through this that there was a baby out there for me, like on the other side, just waiting, like they were waiting for me as long as I was waiting for them. And I think that that was something else that kind of came into my journey along here, and from you, and just that you hold on to, right? Because you don't know what you're going to hold on to, what's going to stick out
Mm-hmm.
to you and what stands out, but because you're open to just new things that came along. And in that moment, I remember thinking, like, I think she found us. Like,
Oh.
I even called it a she. Like, I didn't know at the time, but I really was like, I think that she found us. I think
Oh
like the baby that was out there finally came to us, and
my God. Were
yeah,
signs a big part of your path? Like, remind me, as what did help keep you in that hopeful, positive mindset? I mean, writing letters is something I think I might have suggested to you,
yeah,
to your sweet one. And I was writing letters to our embryo too. It's just like calling them forward, right? Feeling that connection before they're even here.
yeah. Definitely positive mind, like positive mantras. We worked a
Uh-huh.
lot on that, even with Natalia too. Like we would work on, what you're going to repeat to yourself and tell
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of, putting my messages on my mirror. So you
Yeah.
see them every day, and,
Yeah.
trading them out, and, whatever was speaking to me in that moment, but reminding myself, because you can forget, right? It's so heavy at times. You
Mhm.
will have those moments of fear and scared, but you can pull it back around by putting yourself in a positive space, by write it down and put it on your mirror, right? Like, give
Mm.
yourself, it's a gift that you're giving yourself to make it more concrete, those moments of belief and hope, right?
And when you did feel like hope was hard to find or just like keeping that
Hmm.
belief alive, what did support you? Because we can't be hopeful, like keep that all the time, like even
Yeah.
moments. So were you sharing with other people? Were you kind of letting yourself have a good cry? Like what helped you?
Yeah. I definitely leaned on Joe. There,
Mhm.
he was very supportive and just let me cry if I needed to, or if I needed to be told to snap out of it. Sometimes,
Yeah.
he has that. He is the yin to my yang in that way, where he knows the right thing to say.
Mhm.
Having a friend or a partner that can do that. I did have one friend who had gone through fertility treatments
Mhm.
here. She was a teacher with me, and so we started that connection. So I could always text or call her, and she would never question any of the nonsense that goes through your head in these, journeys and along this path.
Mhm.
I could just say it, and she would hear me, and just to be heard. But a lot of
Mhm.
times, allowing myself, like, to relax through that hypnosis, and the self hypnosis, I think, was important to me too, because you
Mhm.
can just go down roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it. I'm not at all saying I didn't along this path. You can, but I do think that the idea of those spirit babies out there, the idea for that, I found
Mhm.
peace in that.
Mhm.
Like, someone might think it's silly, but
No.
there are other people out there that believe it, and I did too. I
Mhm.
resonated with that, and I did hold on to that idea that, we're both looking for each other and it just hasn't lined up yet.
Mhm.
But I did believe that you are seeking and looking, like, where do you get the energy to keep trying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Why
Yeah.
did I have that? And to me, the way that I made sense of that was because it was truly this child that was supposed to be with me,
Yeah.
because I don't know where else it came from. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I
I
know.
don't, like, I can't put my
Mm.
finger on it. I just believed that it was for her.
I have this card in front of me that Olivia, my daughter, made for me, and it's like it says, "Thank you for being with me from the beginning." And it's
Yeah.
like I bawled when she wrote that. It's
Oh,
just
that's
like
so sweet.
that was a Christmas card last year, and I like when you've gone through this long road and yours is like one story I've not heard of before. That's why I'm just so grateful to you for sharing and pouring your heart into this conversation because it's like you truly like it just shifts the way you experience motherhood. Like
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
love to hear from you. Like, how has this enhanced your ability, being a mom, being like,
Yeah. I
she's just
think
so
about how,
beautiful.
like, that's a beautiful card from Olivia. Like,
Yeah.
how one day I just hope she knows how wanted she was and how loved she is.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I never envisioned maybe myself only having one child, truly. I mean, I can say that and know that this is a safe space to share that.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
teacher. I've always loved children. I
Yeah.
envision myself having a bigger family, maybe. I mean, then you have a baby and you're like, oh my God, how do people have how do people have 5 children? I don't know how they do it. But I never maybe envisioned myself having an only child.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but now I know that this is the family that was meant for us.
Yeah. Same.
Like
I
that.
think,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, no, I just mean, like, I hope that she just knows how loved she is,
Mhm.
and how wanted she is. And maybe she doesn't have a brother or sister to share that with.
Mhm.
I think about that a lot as a mom, but, that we are the three of us met what the team was meant to be.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can so relate. I am having an only child as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes the path is just kind of laid out before you and
Yeah.
feeling grateful. You mentioned about being a teacher and helping kids. And for those who do work with kids, that can be really challenging too. I just wanted to hear from your standpoint. Did it give you kind of like that inspired feeling of like being around kids was uplifting for you, or was it challenging working in that space with young kids?
Yeah, school was always uplifting for me in
Yeah.
terms of,
Mhm.
it's nothing like having a child in your own home that's yours. But I could, I think I learned a lot of lessons throughout the way
Yeah.
of teaching and being with them, and knowing still though that like that was the goal. I had to send them home from school, right? And I always
Yeah.
wanted to be on the other side of the school bus where the kids get off.
Oh, yeah.
Be the one greeting the little kid bouncing off the school bus. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that it did inspire me that like, I wasn't willing to give up the opportunity to be that mom on the other side of the school bus, bringing them
Mm.
home with you at the end of the day.
Oh, well, I'm glad that kind of, supported you and you were in that energy of like, yeah, this is happening for me one day too, you know?
Sure. I mean, and there are days like where you see a child and
Mm.
you want to be the one to say like, why can't I have that? There
Yeah.
were days where you felt that, and or if
Hmm.
someone, you see an instance where maybe someone wasn't being as well taken care of as you would love to take care
Yeah.
of a child yourself. Um, so sometimes that moment was like would be hard in the school space at times, but only because
Hmm.
you know how much love you have to give, and you know that all children deserve that.
Yeah. Um, for anyone listening who's kind of considering the idea of getting extra support and, they may be going about this alone and feeling just like, okay, what else can I do? Like, what advice or what guidance do you encourage others to seek out extra support? Like, what would
Mhm.
you say to the woman who's kind of like deep in the trenches of this and like looking for a new path forward?
Yeah, I think that you have to be open to anything along this path. I think we've spoken a lot about like just openness.
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
easy, like you said in the beginning, I was kind of a little more closed off. I mean, truly, Lisa, like I didn't even want to necessarily have a big conversation on a podcast with you in the beginning. We've mentioned even like a year ago or two, we touched base
Yeah.
about it, and I wasn't really
Yeah.
ready to
Yeah.
put myself in my experiences out there because of that. Right? It's
Yeah.
a personal
Very
thing.
personal. Hmm.
But I think that you have to be open, because I never would have, like I said, met Natalia along the space, understood that like I felt in my heart the idea of these like spirit babies, but it really is a thing. And,
Yeah.
it's beautiful when you find something that can resonate with you. Like, how do you even know what's going to resonate with you until you're open to,
Yeah.
experiencing other things, and, talking to you and your motivation to just keep trying and being positive. Even if you feel positive that day when you and I would have a call, it's like at the 2 a.m. moments when you needed that voice in the back of your head to say, I'm right to keep trying, right? I'm not crazy. At some point along the
Hmm.
journey, sometimes you say, am I crazy to keep going? But if your gut's telling you to do that and you have other people supporting you and saying, do it, I think you find
Hmm.
people along your path that help fill those little holes for you. And that's what our work was. And, the other people that I met after our work,
Yeah.
helped me to know it
Yeah.
was out there.
Yeah.
How would I have known, that what I needed to help me fill those gaps to really get me to the end of my journey, to like help me cross the finish line?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it really just it takes a decision to open yourself up to, okay, I'm ready for a new approach. And you don't know what new connections can come from that, right? New tools, new practices, new connections, practitioners. So I
And
loved
reaching
working
out's
with you.
the hardest part, right? It's just
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to reach out and see if it is the right thing,
Right.
right? A
Right.
message or a DM or watching someone's video about something, it doesn't mean you're committing to like a lifelong partnership if
Totally.
it's not the
Yeah.
right thing for you. But I
Right.
think that taking that first step is important. Like if something's telling you that you need to be open or try to change how you're seeing it, then do it,
Yeah.
right? Like that's your gut telling you try something else, get the extra support, do something more to help you, because it doesn't have to be lonely, and it doesn't have to be just you on the journey, no matter how strange your journey might be, right? Like
Hmm.
you said, no one has exactly what maybe one other person's going through,
Right.
but you certainly can, like we all have hearts and we all have souls, and we can all
Mm.
feel what this experience is like together.
Mm. Well, I love you in this conversation so much. Thank you for just, saying yes. And you're helping so many people who are navigating through this path. And I
You're
just
welcome.
have the utmost respect for you and your beautiful family. Joe's a treasure. My gosh.
Thank you. He is. He is a trooper and a treasure. Thank you
You're
very
sweet,
much. And thank
Ella.
you
This
for all your help. I really do appreciate it.
you.
You go through some of these things, and if you can pay it forward, like that is, I think, what makes it all worth it. So I hope
Oh,
that if someone's struggling, they know that they can have hope. Like it can happen. It could be 7 years later, right? I was,
yeah.
39 when I had Ella, but it can happen.
I'm so happy for you. Big hugs to you. Love you, Carrie. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.